Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 327. What could I say, if only I could, about these games?
Welcome, citizens of Meeple Nation. For the next 30 minutes, sit back and enjoy.
Meeple Nation Podcast is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. Go to their website and enhance your game night by getting a game topper to go on top of your regular table to make your game night go from great to amazing. Check them out. That's GameToppersLLC.com.
Does not work the same for ribs. You're not allowed to have food on the game topper.
No food on the Watsons, because there's a bag of pretzels right there.
Well, that's not real food. That's just like food.
Food enough, yeah. It's crummy food. You don't want crumbs on the table.
Welcome to Meeple Nation. We are your hosts. I'm Dave Holliday.
I'm Logan Howard.
I'm Andy Holliday.
And I'm Nathan Howard.
You know, this week we're discussing games with communication limits. We're going to discuss 4 different games. They're games that we decided we felt that brought a unique view or games that we really liked about that game mechanic. We're going to start with David and Time's Up.
All right, so Time's Up is a game that's been around for a long time. First in 1999. It was designed by Peter Serrett and published by R&R Games. Time's Up is a game I first played just a couple of years ago. When we were up in Washington, we had some friends invite us over for a game night. Typically, for me, that's not my... I generally, when I get that invite, I generally grimace a little bit because I know most people aren't playing the games that I'm going to enjoy. And this one was a party game. But as Logan said, I'm talking about this one because it's one that I actually did enjoy. My wife loved it, and we ended up buying it, and my kids have really enjoyed it. As I've said before, that for me is a winning combination. Whenever my wife and kids enjoy a game, that's something that I look forward to. In the title, you can see it's a timed game, which kind of helps me a little bit. It's for ages 12 and up for 4 or more players. The rules tell you that it's best when you have teams of 2. So even if you have 8 people, it's best to have 4 teams of 2 as opposed to 2 teams of 4. I've never played it that way. In fact, I didn't know that until just reading through these again, getting ready for tonight. Every time I've played it, just had 2 teams, no matter how many people we had. Have any of y'all done it differently with the teams of 2?
No, we usually always do it with teams. It's a staple for a lot of our barbecues. We will usually play guys against gals. It is one of the few games that we can get Brent's wife to play with us. Brent's wife, my wife, neighbor's wife, Logan's imaginary wife are all on the other team.
That was very true and a little sad all at the same time. I just want to say.
Usually the ladies have a distinct, not necessarily advantage, but...
No advantage.
I mean, yeah, it's a psychological advantage because they're better at it than us.
The only time I've won was when we had like an odd number of guys, and so I was randomly selected to be on the girls' team. My one victory for Time's Up was right there.
Love this game. Have a ton of fun with it.
You start the game off by dealing out 40 cards. The cards are simple. They have a yellow and a blue side to them, and you decide which side you're going to use beforehand. You deal out the 40 cards just as evenly as you can. And then you give everybody 2 extra cards so that you end up, with a decent number of cards in the game. Typically what we've done is we've just sat in a big circle alternating people from each team. When you get your cards, you'll go ahead and you have 30-second timer to get your team to guess the clue on your card. There's simple things. Actually, some of them are not simple at all. There's a lot of different categories. So there's songs like the card I'm looking at right now, Macarena, TV, Dragnet, I Got You, Babe, another song, Losing My Religion, Land of the Lost, Ulysses, a book, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, it's a play, Planet of the Apes, a movie. So there's a lot of different categories, and you can just kind of see some of them are super simple, some of them are not. There are 3 rounds to this game. In the first round...
Well, I'm sorry, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it everybody gets cards and then they pick which cards out of those that they're going to add into the stack? Or is that just something we do, Nathan?
No, you're right.
Oh, okay.
That is.
So if you get something like that play that you had no idea what it was,
right?
It's a great card to have if you're going through the rounds and you already got everything figured out. But it can really screw it up when you're going back and forth trying to spend all your 30 seconds getting everybody to guess this random obscure thing that you're not
Right.
really sure what it is.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that's kind of key to understanding this game. In the beginning, you look at your cards and then you basically choose a certain number of them. All the cards get handed into whoever is going to go first. They have the entire stack of cards. Now you know which 4 cards you handed into them. So you know that those cards are in there at the very least, right? Sometimes, like you said, Logan, you might not have any idea what it is. Somebody's struggling with it and you could just blurt out, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. And you got it. I've seen people do that. But you have to be careful because the rules change every round. First round, the clue giver can say any number of words. They can't say any of the words that are in the title, in the clue, whatever. Can give any number of words, and the team can guess any number of times. You just have 30 seconds. You cannot pass, though, during the first round. You can't get it, you're out of luck. So if I'm first, I have 30 seconds. I pull out any of the cards that my team got correctly, and then pass the stack to the next person on the next team. And then they have the 30 seconds. They pull out the cards that their team got correctly, and you keep going until all of the things have been guessed. And so then that's the end of round 1. Then you tally up how many points each team got, and you move on to round 2. Round 2, you use the same stack of cards, the same clues. During round 2, the clue giver can only say one word. Can't say anything else. They can act stuff out still, but as far as verbalizing anything, one word, and that's it.
They can't make sound effects.
Yes.
You can hum, you can make a sound effect, you can make any motion that you want. You're limited to that one single word.
And then here's where it gets a little trickier as the guessers go. You're also limited to only one guess. You don't want to just blurt something out without having a pretty good idea if that's what it is. In round 2, you can pass in round 2. So if you're having trouble with something, move on and try and get through them. Do the same thing. You pull out any of them that you got correct, pass the rest along until all of them have been guessed. Round 2 really helps with round 3 because by now, some of the things that you've acted out that are really going to help a lot in round 3. And it ends up being totally hoot. There's a lot of laughs in this game because of the way this goes. So during round 3, the clue giver cannot say anything, not one word. So round 1, unlimited words. Round 2, 1 word. Round 3, 0 words. Still limited to one guess, and you still can pass. It gets trickier, and it gets harder, sort of. And I say sort of because by now, like I said, you've gone around several times with these same clues or these same cards. Like I said, you've laughed at the same thing with the same card, and a simple look can be all you need to guess the right thing. When it first was explained to me, it seemed to me, I'm like, how on earth are you going to do this, right? How on earth are you going to get any of these in round 3? It's much easier than it sounds. Like I said, it ends up being hilarious, and there's a lot of laughs.
When we play at our barbecues, one of the things that I think gives the women the biggest advantage is they start with round 1 and they start associating a pantomime with that word at round 1. So that round 2, they're reinforcing that pantomime, and then by round 3, they hopefully have that pantomime in place so they can monopolize on that, right. And everybody can remember that. The whole time, even when the other team is guessing, they're going together and they say, oh, Ulysses, we're going to do a
book or something. They do something with it.
Yeah.
It's kind of distracting, too. You need to pay attention to those because you want your team to know the same pantomimes. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why they do it better is because they just take charge with it. They're able to focus on that and see what we're doing at the same time. We're confused about guessing, and so they're cementing about what's going on while we're trying to listen, and it just works out better for them.
I think it goes to women can do multiple things at the same time a lot better than guys can. In my experience, anyways, I find that women are far more efficient in being able to keep up those things at the same time, to be able to kind of focus on those things, which I guess is multitasking.
Multitasking of the brain.
Multitasking of the brain, yeah. It is funny to watch them. Like, the whole time they're giving clues, they're doing it, and when we're giving clues, they're doing it there too. When we're doing it, we're too focused on the current player is, the active player, that we're not paying attention necessarily to the scheming, I'm going to call it, that the women do.
Scheming is a good
It might be the gamers in you too where that focus comes from.
It could be, yeah, it could be. But still, that game is so much fun. And we've played that game for years and years. There's a newer version, and by newer I mean it's 2008, and that's a version's called Time's Up Title Recall. Like the clues you were giving, Dave, all came from Title Recall, which includes movies, books, TV shows, songs, media like that, where regular Time's Up can be a much broader pool of clues. And we like this one, the original Time's Up, and I have Time's Up Title Recall. But we found that kids, we were playing with younger kids, those kids were able to pick up a lot of the titles better because there was some media in there that they were familiar with. Given there was still a majority of that media, I mean, you look at Planet of the Apes, and before the remake, the Charlton Heston era, for that riff, all of our kids would be like, "What the heck is Planet of the Apes?" I mean, now with the remake, that's a little bit more valid. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, a play that our neighbors, the Clarks, thoroughly enjoy. It's a Shakespearean, the two people who Hamlet has killed, they're supposed to kill him, but he tricks them and they get imprisoned. I hope that's the story. Great game, ton of fun. You have those stories that stick with the game forever and ever. I remember a long time ago that we were playing and Brent had the clue for Marie Curie. And his clue was that he would put his hand in his pocket. She accidentally discovered radiation poisoning by killing herself, because she got too close to radioactive materials. It was always that, shoving his hand in his pocket. I still remember that from years ago. Time's Up is a great game. And something I think come SaltCon spring of 2021, I'm thinking about running an event that we're going to do Time's Up.
That'd be cool.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. We can get people like the Hug Girls.
Yep, I bet they'd love it.
They would make that a very memorable experience. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll be doing that in spring.
What are the odds? Because my game that I wanted to talk about, I'm also thinking about running an event in SaltCon Spring. It's a game that I actually played at SaltCon Spring. I played with Nathan's daughter, Ashley. We went off because Nathan was playing Battlestar Galactica, and so he was distracted for a little bit. It's called Blood on the Clock Tower. It was a Kickstarter that's taken forever to production.
Did you back it?
I did the backdoor...
The late pledge?
Late pledge, whatever it was. It's on their website. So if you go through their website and you just look up Blood on the Clock Tower, it's got a huge following already. Because if you follow it through, you can actually do a print and play the game still without actually having the copy until they send it. I got an email just the other day. They say production is going at one point, but they were not very specific on a time frame. Hopefully it'll get there. Designed by Stephen Midway, plays 30 minutes to 2 hours, and publisher is the Pandemonium Institute. It's a game that's very werewolf-centric, and I can't remember, David, Andy, have you guys played Werewolf?
I have
Yes.
not.
Okay, so David, yes, Andy, not. This game, it does a lot of good with what the werewolf type of game style, but then also falls into some of the same traps. But it's mostly just the people that play those types of games that are like that. Ashley had an absolute blast playing this game. Her absolute favorite thing when we sat down to play was when we were playing with mostly new people. We were playing with a couple of Hug Girls that were playing with it, but mostly it was brand new people, so there was no preconceived notions. There was no, oh, you were the werewolf this many times or anything, so you must be evil now. So she liked that. She also loved, as soon as the game started, you went through the night phase and found out who demons were and villagers and all this other stuff, that people just started going off on sidebars. They would just collect into like little groups of 2 or 3 people and start spreading rumors about other people. The person that was the demon would find out who the minions were, and so they would have to try to sidebar to conspire against everybody else without being suspicious that they were together. She absolutely loved the secrecy, the chaos of it. It was great. One of my main issues with the game is still the werewolf mentality of, I just said something, so you have to believe me, I'm absolutely true. I can just say, hey guys, I'm the fortune teller, I found out this information, but there's no way to verify it. And it's the same thing in this game. People would be like, oh, well, this is true. And I'm like, but why? This game is a little bit more unique. When you die, you're still very much involved in the game.
Oh, okay.
Even if you're voted and they hang you, execute you, lynch you, whatever it is, you're still involved in the game because you still get a vote for the very end to find out who the minion was or stuff like that, because you still get that one vote and you get to contribute to that. Because in Werewolf, I always die super early, even when that happens, which it did happen in this game, our first game too.
That's because you're just so killable?
It's my
Something
burden.
about your face.
It's my
I don't
burden to
know.
bear.
I was just looking at his face, and when he blinked his eyelashes, he looked like Snuffleupagus. Yeah, those long eyelashes in his glasses. I was like, what does that look? Snuffleupagus. Yeah. That's not very killable to me. I wouldn't kill you.
Oh, thank you, David. Doesn't mean much when you don't play. Because I would appreciate those votes, because it's not like I could just record it and just be like, hey guys, if we're recording from Dave.
Dave says he wouldn't kill me.
He says I'm snuggly, so you guys should leave me alone. The game was a lot of fun. In Werewolf, they have villagers, so like just regular villagers, where you don't have any special power and stuff like that, and people really don't like that. In this game, they tried really hard to give everybody unique powers, which was good, but worked against it because it was just so chaotic. Also because it was a print and play, cheaped out when we played at SaltCon and didn't print everything out, and everybody just read from the computer as they scribbled it on a piece of paper.
Nice.
And so we're passing around this paper back and forth as we're playing it, trying to read rolls because somebody's insinuating this, and we're like, where does that power come from? Who's that? And so we're trading back papers, and then they didn't even write it in the same spots, and so we're flipping the pages over back and forth trying to read it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
When they actually come out with the game, they do come with cheat sheets, so that way you know what roles can do what powers.
Right.
Because they don't tell you who's going to be in the pot to mix around for the identities. Just having the option of like knowing what powers are out there, and instead of just thinking, yeah, I think that's how that works.
Yeah, I mean that'll also come with play and experience as well, right? I mean,
that's one of their biggest thing that I think is working to their advantage right now, is that they're doing all sorts of play tests. They have the print and plays out there, that they have that huge cult following that people are actually giving them tons of feedback, so that way they can polish this game to a further point before they actually come out to print.
Cool.
So, I mean, that is one of the best things. They have a podcast that the creator talks about the game. They have all this following for the game. I really hope by the time it really comes out, set up a game for SaltCon Spring.
Every time we have a werewolf event there, it's a huge hit. I'm sure that this would also.
Fourth largest event SaltCon does. The largest one this year was the game show, followed by the puzzle hunt. The werewolf is 3 or 4 on that list of most attended events.
So that's Blood on the Clock Tower. Fun. It's kind of chaotic. That's what you got to expect when you have 20 different people playing and everybody has a unique role. Definitely worth a play. Come play Blood on the Clock Tower.
The game I'm going to talk about, like you mentioned last week, Andy, about Escape being your wife's game. This next game is my wife's game. This is one that we played. She was just taken by the artwork that is included in the game. Every time we play it is totally enthralled with the different art that is in it. And this is Dixit. Dixit was released originally in 2008 and has had several expansions and a couple of base buy-ins that you can get. You can also get those to add those art cards into whatever version you're playing. The base game plays 3 to 6 players, plays about 30 minutes. It's designed by Jean-Louis Ribera. Not very many games do I talk about the artist, but this game, because it is so art-heavy. So the artist is Marie Cardois. The artwork is phenomenal. I mean, it's just such a wide variety and different focus items that are on the card. It's amazing art. You know, similar to Mysterium, Obscuro, like we're going to be talking about next week. But it just has that really interesting, really beautiful artwork. In fact, my wife likes it so much that her favorite card, I made a copy of that card and had it printed on a shirt for her.
Nice.
Really?
So,
Wow.
Yeah, she really likes that. Published by Libelud. It also won 2010 Spiel des Jahres.
That's pretty awesome.
That speaks for it in itself. Essentially, the game is kind of a storytelling game. The active player is going to look at their hand of 6 cards, and they're going to pick one of those cards, and then they're going to, without revealing anything, they're going to provide a sentence that is describing one of their cards. They will say that sentence out loud, then all the other players will look at their cards and try to pick a card that is associated with that sentence. Then all players will hand in their cards. Those cards will get shuffled up, and then all cards will get revealed and laid out for everybody to see. Now, each player is going to take their marker, and they're going to say, okay, I think it is this card, this card, and this card. So everybody's going to put their guesses, which card they feel best matches that sentence. If nobody guesses my card, I'm the active player, and nobody guesses my card, I score 0 points. Everybody else scores 2 points. Otherwise, if at least one person picks my card, then I score 3 points. The player who puts their marker on my card will score a point. And then as an additional bonus, anybody else's card that's out there that somebody else put a marker on as a guess, that player would also score a point as well. You go until somebody has scored 30 points. It actually goes pretty quick. It usually falls right within that 30 minutes. It's so much fun because you have that whole feel of trying to match this, and everybody can interpret your sentence their own way. You can't add anything to your sentence. You just say it once and hope for the best.
Can they ask you to repeat for inflection, or is that just it? After you say it, you're done?
You say it, they can ask you to repeat it, and you have to say it the same way you said it the first time. If you're trying to imply any tone or any accent or anything that you're trying to imply in your sentence as you say that the same. To go way back, we were playing, my card had a whale. I was trying to impersonate Dory best I could from Finding Nemo with how she communicated with whales, and this is my card, or something like that. Trying to come up with something, but just the way I said the sentence helped imply. But then a downside, if everybody guesses my card, meaning my sentence was way too easy, I score 0 points and everybody else scores 2 points. You want to make your card clear for sure, but at the same point, you don't want to be hands down, people got it. That's Dixit. Very fun. We even actually went out and bought 20 different colored meeples, 3 sets of them, so I could expand the number of players that it includes. But you also need markers. You need meeples, and you also need different colored markers. Players can have a marker that they're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is going to indicate what cards they're going to guess out there. That is Dixit.
How many cards do they have for artwork in that
And
game?
the base game has 84 cards in it, and then
Does it feel like you go through it too quickly, or?
If you're playing it on a regular basis, yeah. After playing the base game, I quickly went out and bought different expansions for it. Quickly outgrew the box. Got to find a better way to sort it in the box. Such a great game.
How many expansions does it have?
There's at least 10, maybe close to 15.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Expansions.
follow-up question. Why haven't you brought it to game night?
Because it's Cheryl's game.
Oh,
Why have you brought Cheryl to game night?
Because she doesn't like you guys.
Whatever. Cheryl loves.
Well, thanks, Nathan. Tonight I want to talk about a game called Pantone. This game is from 2 to 20 players, and playtime is about 15 to 30 minutes. The designer of this game is Scott Rogers.
Does he go by Mr.?
He might. That Mr. is his father. Publisher is Cryptozoic Entertainment. Pantone is... It's an interesting game. The way it's played is everybody is dealt 3 character cards at the beginning of the game. The game will last for 3 rounds, and each round is played slightly different. There are 15 different colored cards. It's just a solid color on the card. That's all it is. And there's 15 different colors. The character cards, the characters are based on pop culture, which is kind of fun. I mean, it's usually movie characters, Disney characters, and the like. So the person whose turn it is, the very first round, can use any number of these colored cards to create essentially an image or something that will allow people to guess what that character is. For example, if you have the Incredible Hulk, you basically use all the colors to put the green arms, the green body, the hair, everything else to make it look like the Hulk.
And the purple pant. Essential for the Hulk.
So on the first round, you can use as many cards as you want. You have 5 minutes to create this image. You can't speak, you can't make noises. The only form of communication you have is putting these cards down in an order that you think will allow people to guess it. Starting with the player to the right of the active player, each person will go around the table and try to guess what character that is. If it's guessed the first round, then both the person that guesses it and the person that created the image will get 5 points. If nobody guesses it the very first round, then a clue is given. Usually a 1-word clue that is given to the whole table, and then we go around the table again. Every round after the first, you lose 1 point. So for each clue that's given, it's worth 1 fewer points if you guess it. And if someone guesses it, then that's it. It's the next player's turn. Also, if you guess it and it's not your turn to guess, you lose a point, and the player who put the cards down will still get full points. So you want to make sure
Depending on the round that they're in?
Yeah.
The guessing round, right?
Yes.
So 3 game rounds, and then in each game round, you're going to have a lot of different times around the table to guess.
Correct. There's a total of 4 hints that you can get, and the hints make it a little more obvious. Each time you go around, the hints get a little more obvious, and it makes it a little easier to guess what the character is. So that's round 1. Round 2, you can use all the colors that you would like, but you can only use 1 card of each color to create that character. This makes it a little more difficult. It limits your communication even more because now you're limited on how many colors that you can use. You can use only 1 of each. But the rest of the round it follows the same as the first round. Finally, the third round, you're limited to a total of 3 cards. So that makes the third round is extremely difficult. At least for me, it's been extremely difficult to try to use 3 colors to create a character.
But you get to pick those 3 cards, right?
You get dealt 3 cards. You get to pick which order you play those cards, but you get dealt the 3 cards.
So is this kind of like Time's Up where it's the same card? So like Incredible Hulk, Peter Pan or something, like they come back around as they get dealt out to people, or is it just
Hulk
brand
is
new?
guessed. Boom.
It's gone.
Out of the game.
And I only have 2 cards left. You have 1 card for each round. So round 1, whatever card you used is gone when it comes time to round 2. And you only have 2 cards to choose from.
Say I have Captain America. Captain America, that's going to be a tough one for me to do in 3 cards. So maybe I want to save that for the second round. That second round, if I use Captain America, whether people guess it or not, I can't use Captain America again. The interesting thing I like about this game is your communication gets limited every single round. It gets harder and harder. It's very similar to Time's Up, where your communication gets more narrow, more and more difficult as the game goes on. One thing I have noticed as we've played this game is there are usually a few people that are exceptionally good at seeing abstract things, and they destroy everyone.
Doesn't make any sense to me, but you probably can guess. Fennel is one of them. Dennis, my brother, for whatever reason. It can be something I've never even heard of. Somebody's thrown down 3 cards on the table, and I'm like, I have no clue in the world what this is supposed to be, and it gets to Dennis, and he's like, and he'll nail it. And you're like, what?
Yeah, how in the world did you figure that out? Yeah.
So none of the other players have any information on what the word is.
No information.
Just
unless
the
they get a
colored
hint.
cards that are down there.
So
unless they get a hint.
Unless they get, it goes around the table more than once and they get hints. That's the only information they have besides what the colors of the cards.
Interesting.
Cards are just 1 inch by 2 inch card. You can stack them in any orientation you like in order to try and create a shape and have the color in the right place or whatever, right? So say, for example, if you had Superman and you want the red cape, you want it in a certain spot. Or there was a Bugs Bunny. You have some gray to represent the body, a little white to represent the chest maybe. You have a carrot, so you have a little orange one with just a little bit of a green card behind the orange one showing that it's whatever this is mostly orange with just a little bit of green. It's really interesting the way that you try and come up with these things. Cards are just as plain as can be, just a single color. Like Andy said, it's mind-blowing how some people are able to just see whatever they're supposed to see.
It is.
And when the rest of us are sitting here going, what?
And I'm usually the one going, what? Yeah. I am not good at this game. On the other hand, I have enjoyed playing this game. I know Dave and I tend to rag on party games because Nathan says we don't like fun games, but this is one that I don't mind playing. Usually if I play a party game, it's usually to pacify the spouses, but this is one that I actually don't mind playing.
I think it's spice, plural.
Spice. Plural of what?
Of spouse.
Spouses.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So how do you have a plural of imaginary spouse? Spice?
Spoose?
Spices?
Spoose? I don't know.
So when I'm adding my spices to my soup, it's just me wishing.
That's Pantone. If anyone likes party games or this style of game, I would highly recommend it because it has been a lot of fun.
Very interesting.
I think you would love it.
I think I would enjoy it. I think my wife would hate it. I'm almost 100% clear that my wife would hate that game. If we played it at our barbecue, Brent would also hate that game.
Oh, really? That's worth pulling out then. I need to play with Brent more.
So do I. Been playing a lot of online games with him. He's been whooping me on our Yukata games. I've been losing quite a bit this year to Brent. That is our 4 games that we picked that have communication limits. There were some similarities in the games, but each of them, I feel, were very different in their own way. Next week, we're going to be talking about Obscuro. Dave, Andy, have you played that?
I have not.
Still have not.
Hopefully we can get that played before we discuss it next week. Otherwise, we'll just be telling you how awesome it is.
Let's hope.
It's a great game, often compared to Mysterium. I find it different enough that
I can enjoy them both, and it's
Yeah.
not like this is the better version of it. They both have their good perks to them.
Anyways, so that's next week. 2 weeks, we will be talking about the Great Western Trail, game that was new to us. Andy and Logan and I played that. Thought about you, Dave, but not hard enough because you weren't here.
Didn't make me appear.
No,
You have to say my name 3 times.
kind of like
Into a
Beetlejuice.
mirror.
Mhm.
Red Rum? Or, no, that's Bloody Mary, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Depending on the myth.
Yeah, that's coming up. There's a game that we've missed. Let us know. Reach out to us. Nation Off Air. Join our group there. Chat with us there. Logan's often on the Instagram.
Gramming instance all the time on Instagram.
Yeah.
Well, like once a week. Maybe a little bit more. Come check us out. Ask us questions. We thoroughly appreciate it. When we were playing Great Western Trail, asked for tips for our first playthrough, and Scott Little came through with a good tip on how to make sure we were competitive. And I thought Nathan was going to totally wallop us, and it turns out that tip definitely helped out.
Next time, hopefully, we'll play by the rules before
All the rules.
all of the rules.
That would be good, yes.
Yeah. So we did have some rule snafus. Still, I enjoyed the game. I thought the
Yeah.
game was great.
I did too.
Looking forward to playing it again.
Until next time.
We'll see you at the game table.